The most dangerous form of control is the one you never notice. We're taught to see freedom as a birthright, a given, a default setting. But look closer. Not at the words. Look at the outcomes. Do you feel free? Do you feel like you chose your life? Your school, your job, your beliefs, even your personality? Or did they hand you a script the day you were born, and you just followed it? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You weren't raised to think. You were raised to obey. From the moment you could walk, the world started training you. Not to lead, not to question, but to follow. Sit still. Raise your hand. Speak only when spoken to. Do not interrupt. Color inside the lines. Don't talk back. Say sorry, even when you're not. Get good grades, get a job, fit in, don't stand out, don't make a scene, don't feel too much, don't want too much. Just enough to keep you busy, never enough to break free. And the punishment for disobedience? Not lashes, not chains and shame. They didn't need to beat you, they just made you afraid of being wrong, of being judged, of being alone. So you fell in line. You clapped when the crowd clapped. You laughed at jokes you didn't find funny. You stayed quiet when something inside you was screaming to speak. And you called that maturity. You called that growing up. No, that was obedience. The invisible hand. The trick was never brute force, it was invisibility. If you knew you were in a cage, you'd try to escape. So they made sure you never saw the bars. They let you believe you were free, as long as you never actually tested the limits. Try skipping college, try disagreeing publicly. Try living without debt, consumption, or approval. Try walking your own path without asking for permission. Watch how quickly the system corrects you. Watch how fast people around you panic, judge, or try to pull you back down. You were conditioned, not with whips, but with rewards. Likes, applause, gold stars, promotions. Until every decision you made came with this silent calculation. Will this make them like me? Will this make them accept me? Will this keep me safe? You were trained to chase safety, and you never noticed how much it cost you. Why you still feel trapped? Now you're older, you might have a degree, a job, a relationship, a life, but something still feels off. You scroll endlessly, you stay busy, but the fire is gone. That rage you had as a kid, the curiosity, the rebellion, the raw hunger, it's been replaced by polite exhaustion. You're not depressed, you're not broken, you're caged, and part of you knows it. Part of you knows there's something wrong with a system that rewards silence over honesty, performance over purpose, obedience over originality. Part of you remembers what it felt like to want something more, to question things, to want to break things, to build your own world. But that part of you has been buried under layers of guilt, fear, and habit, and the system is counting on that. You were raised to be predictable. If you're easy to predict, you're easy to manage. And if you're easy to manage, you're profitable. They want your routine, your loyalty, your quiet compliance. Because you can't control a wild animal, but you can control a trained dog. You were raised with rules designed to make you predictable, not powerful. And here's how it shows up. You say yes when you want to say no. You overthink texts before sending them. You apologize for having needs. You stay in the group even when it doesn't fit you. You seek comfort over truth. You call your silence peace. But none of this is peace. It's suppression. It's self-abandonment, sold as discipline. It's comfort in exchange for control. You're not being yourself, you're being a well-trained version of what the world told you to be. Why the world feeds on your obedience. Let's stop pretending this is accidental. Billions are made off your obedience. Your silence fuels the machine. Your approval seeking is the product. You follow trends? Good. You're marketable. You stay scared? Perfect. You're dependent. You don't question? Even better. You're predictable, They don't want thinkers, they want followers, and they got what they wanted. But here's the twist. The second you stop obeying, they lose control. That's why the system punishes independence. It's why speaking your truth makes people uncomfortable. It's why breaking the script triggers resentment, because nothing is more dangerous to a system of control than a human being who thinks for themselves. They told you that you were free to choose, free to act, free to build your own life. But how free can you really be if the tools you use to make decisions were given to you by someone else? From birth, they built you. Your name, you didn't choose it. Your language, you didn't choose it. Your country, your religion, your values, all handed to you before you could even speak. They didn't give you a blank canvas. They gave you a coloring book. And if you ever tried to color outside the lines, you were corrected. You're being difficult. That's not how things work. Grow up. So slowly and quietly, you stopped asking why. You stopped questioning. You stopped imagining a life beyond the one you were told was correct. And you called that growing up. The illusion of choice. They offer you Coke or Pepsi and call it freedom. Left or right, safe or risky. Be a doctor or be a failure. But if all the options come from the same place, is it really a choice? Or is it a script disguised as freedom? Real freedom isn't picking between A and B, it's realizing you can invent C. But they trained you to never even look for C, because C doesn't get you grades. C doesn't follow the rules. C makes people uncomfortable. C is dangerous. How they control the narrative. Watch how they control the truth. The news doesn't report, it selects. School doesn't teach you to think, it teaches you to repeat. Social media doesn't connect you, it conditions you. You're not watching reality. You're watching a curated feed of what they want you to see. And it's not just what you're shown, it's what you're not shown. You've never been taught to. Handle solitude. Question your job. Understand power. Say no without guilt. Sit with anger without self-blame. Create your own structure, because a person with no internal structure will always depend on external systems to feel stable. The slave who thinks he's free. The most obedient people don't look like slaves. They look like high performers. They look like good students, good workers, good citizens. But ask them, who are you without the job? Who are you without the group? Who are you when nobody's watching? Most can't answer, because their identity was never self-built. It was assigned, and they just learned to wear it well. You were never taught how to think. They gave you formulas, not freedom. Memorize. Don't question. Accept. Don't confront. Repeat. Don't innovate. But true thought, independent, disruptive thought, is dangerous to a system built on obedience. So they buried it. And now, when you finally try to think for yourself, you feel guilt, you feel fear, you second guess, because you were never trained to trust your own mind, only to follow it as long as it aligned with the rules. They told you school was where you'd learn to think, to grow, to unlock your potential. But school was never designed for thinkers. It was designed for workers. The real history of modern education. The modern school system, bells, rows of desks, standardized tests, wasn't built to inspire minds. It was built to create factory workers. Literally, it mirrored industrial structure: show up on time, follow instructions, memorize rules, take breaks when told, produce on deadline, respect hierarchy, don't question authority. You weren't taught how to think, you were taught what to think. And anything outside the syllabus was irrelevant, was dangerous. Compliance over curiosity. Remember how it felt to ask too many questions? You annoyed the teacher, slowed down the class, got labeled a problem. You weren't rewarded for curiosity. You were trained out of it. Don't ask why, just do it. Don't be difficult. Stay on task. But what is intelligence without curiosity? It's memorization. It's mimicry. It's intellectual obedience. And they called that education, the fear of being wrong. In school, being wrong was punished. Wrong answers meant bad grades. Bad grades meant shame. Shame meant disconnection. So you learned not to risk, not to explore, not to challenge. Instead, you played it safe, you regurgitated, you learned the game as not the subject. And you called that intelligence. But real intelligence, real brilliance, it requires risk. It requires being wrong, a lot. It requires thinking beyond what's printed on a page. And that kind of mind can't be controlled. So they built a system to train it out of you before it ever had a chance to grow, grading your obedience. Grades don't measure intelligence, they measure compliance. Who turned it in on time? Who followed the rules? Who memorized the textbook? They never asked, did this challenge you? Did you question the premise? Did you change your mind halfway through? Because obedience is easier to scale, and the system is built for scale, not truth. So they filtered you into categories: gifted, average, troubled, quiet, follower, leader. They weren't measuring your mind, they were labeling your usefulness. And once you had a label, you stayed in the box. The purpose was never you. You thought school was for your benefit, but look closer. Who benefits when you learn to sit still for 8 hours a day? Associate your worth with external approval? Fear being wrong in public? Stay quiet unless called on? Not you. The system does. Because it gets a citizen who won't revolt, a worker who won't question, a thinker who doubts themselves. And that's exactly what it was designed to produce. But once you see it, once you really see it, you can never go back. You realize the most dangerous thing you can do is unlearn the obedience you were trained to believe was virtue. Obedience doesn't start with rules, it starts with shame. Because rules can be broken, but shame becomes a mirror you carry everywhere. They don't need to punish you, they just need you to punish yourself. The system doesn't yell, it whispers. You were told, don't be too loud, don't draw attention, don't make mistakes in public, don't act like you're better than anyone, don't be weird, don't take up too much space. Every one of those lines was a leash, wrapped in politeness, tightened over time. And when you followed them, you weren't praised for thinking, you were praised for shrinking. The weaponization of embarrassment. Embarrassment is a quiet execution. It kills the rebel in you before it ever speaks. You had a big idea, you said it, they laughed, and just like that, you stopped speaking. You dressed differently. They stared, so you changed your clothes, not to feel good, but to disappear. You questioned a teacher. You got shut down. Now you don't question anyone, not even yourself. Shame doesn't just silence you, it rewires you. You learn that being yourself is a risk, and that safety lies in sameness. Shame turns confidence into a crime. They don't say, don't be strong. They say, don't be arrogant. They don't say, don't lead. They say, you're controlling. They don't say, don't speak truth. They say, you're being aggressive. The words change, but the message is the same. Dim your light, so others can stay comfortable. And you listened. You started apologizing for your success. You made yourself smaller to be liked. You hid your power just to be safe. And then you wondered why you felt invisible. Shame makes you predictable. A person ruled by shame is easy to control. They'll self-sabotage, they'll overthink, they'll doubt themselves before anyone else gets the chance. They'll conform, perform, and betray their own gut just to avoid feeling exposed. You don't need to control a person with chains. Just remind them that standing out is dangerous, and they'll put the chains on themselves. But here's the shift. What if you weren't ashamed of being different? What if you weren't afraid of being disliked? What if you made peace with being misunderstood? What if shame and the very thing that kept you small became the signal that you're finally doing something real? That you're no longer a servant to comfort? That you've started to reclaim yourself? Because once you stop avoiding shame, you become untouchable. You think you're free. You think you're authentic. You think you're choosing your path. But look closer. Every post you make, every word you say, every decision you hesitate over, is it you acting? Or is it your desire to be liked? Pulling the strings, the digital chain. You open your phone, you hesitate before posting, you rewrite the caption, you delete the comment. You ask your friend, does this sound okay? You weren't worried about being wrong. You were worried about being disliked. That's not self-expression, that's performance. You don't want to be free, you want to be approved of, and it's killing you. Slowly, quietly. Because every time you shape yourself to fit their preferences, you abandon a piece of your truth. And over time, you forget what you even believe. You become a mirror, reflecting what they want, not who you are. This is the slavery of the modern age. Not chains, not prisons. Validation. Machiavelli would call it weakness. Niccolò Machiavelli didn't care if people liked him. He didn't write The Prince to be adored. He wrote it to expose power, to say what others were too scared to say. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. In a world obsessed with likes, he would have been cancelled and laughed in their faces, because he knew that love without respect is just dependency, and being liked without being feared. That's the currency of people who never plan to lead. Approval is addictive, but it never fills you. You think being liked will heal you, but it won't. Because the more liked you become, the more afraid you are to lose it. So you censor your voice, you polish your edges, you speak in safe, soft, inoffensive language, and you lose your power. No one fears the agreeable, no one follows the over-accommodating. You want everyone to like you? Fine. But they'll never respect you. Freedom begins where approval ends. The most powerful people in history weren't liked. They were controversial, disruptive, unapologetic, and that's why they changed the world. You don't need to be reckless, but you need to be willing to speak when it's unpopular, to move when others freeze, to be hated when it's required. The moment you stop needing to be liked, you stop being controlled. You weren't born obedient. You were trained, tamed, broken into shape, which means you can unlearn it. But this won't come through motivation. It comes through deprogramming. Here's how. Step 1. Start disappointing people on purpose. Say no, leave the group chat, skip the event, don't explain. Watch how people react. They'll say, "You've changed." What they mean is, "You stopped doing what I wanted." Let them feel that. Let them adjust. You're not here to be a background character in their story. Step 2. Create without permission. Don't ask if it's good. Don't ask if it's too much. Don't ask if it makes sense. Just create. Your work doesn't need a stamp of approval. It needs to exist. If it makes someone uncomfortable, you're doing it right. Step 3. Break the routine. Routines are sacred until they become cages. Take a different route. Cancel your own plans. Sit in silence instead of scrolling. Interrupt your pattern, because freedom doesn't come through habits. It comes through interruptions. Step 4. Sit with discomfort. Stop trying to fix the discomfort of being disliked, alone, unapproved of. Sit with it. Feel the cold air of separation. Because in that space, you find your real voice. And your voice, unfiltered, is what they've been trying to train out of you since the beginning. Step 5. Choose truth over peace. This is the hardest one. Tell the truth even when it makes things messy. Say what you see, even when no one else will. Truth isn't safe, but it is sovereign. And you were never meant to be obedient. You were meant to be sovereign. If you've made it this far, you're not average. Average minds click away when it gets uncomfortable. Average minds seek comfort over truth. Average minds want to be liked, even if it means being hollow. But you stayed. You faced it. You didn't flinch, and that makes you dangerous, and it makes you ready. So here's what I want you to do next. Unfollow comfort. Unlearn approval. Unsilence your voice. Start now. Hit like, subscribe, and come back for the next one. Because this isn't motivation, this is reconstruction. You've been obedient long enough. It's time to become dangerous.